Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet, about to be joined by Ken Weeb from the Winnipeg Free Press. Together, we are Kenny and Renny. This is the Kenny and Renny post-game show after it was a game. It was a game out on the West Coast tonight between the Winnipeg Jets and the San Jose Sharks. Time for me to hop into my 2007 Toyota Yaris and take a moonlight ride out there, a midnight drive for the Jim Pattison Toyota on Regent. Opening drive here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get right at it. You know what? I like to drive fast. I'm a bit of a heavy foot. Spend a lot of my time, battling speeding tickets and demerits and those kind of things before I finally grew up, a lot of years later, a couple of years ago, probably is what it was, where I finally decided to, slow down a little bit. But, when you drive fast, you see things fast, right? And when you start seeing things fast and things are a little bit slower, you're wondering to yourself, hey, is it really that slow, or am I just moving so fast? And, maybe I was looking at this game tonight and I was thinking, are the Jets really moving that slow, or am I just moving really fast in my 2007 Toyota Yaris? But you know what? When I was watching the game, the Jim Pattison Toyota on Regent hadn't, the opening drive hadn't started yet, right? So it couldn't have been that. This was not a game where those of us who've been questioning at the start of the season if the Winnipeg Jets are a slower version of themselves, this was not the game that would disprove that theory. This is a young, up-and-coming San Jose Sharks team, exciting team, fun to watch, no doubt. And you got to wonder if their speed as a youthful team is something that challenged the Winnipeg Jets on this night. Now, I know a lot of you people are going to say, and it's back to the whole, they didn't have their A game. And you know how I feel about that. But I would also suggest, I'm not going to say a team is on top of their game every single night. You know what I like to say, though. Don't just throw out, well, they didn't win tonight, they didn't have their A game. That's your answers, right? Like you got to look at this and start thinking to yourself, is there an issue that the Jets need to take a look at here? I don't think it was their best game. I don't think they were on top of things. It looks to me like there was a little bit of a letdown following a really hard grind against the LA Kings the other night, where the Jets were shut out. All of a sudden, 1 goal in 2 games. I will say this, with a 15-game cross-section so far this season, you take a look at this team. If there's one thing, speed, whatever you want to talk about, that I think is, marks the Jets as being different. There's one thing I think above all that stands out to me. And what it was last year with the Winnipeg Jets, there was this feeling of inevitability. Like inevitably, they were going to take over the game. Inevitably, they were grinding you to the point that you were going to kind of tap out. Inevitably, they just stacked the right thing over and over again. And you just knew somehow, even if they fell down early in that game, that they were going to find a way to make it work, or that if they went up 2-0 or something like that, that they were going to grind it out and they were going to stay doing the right things. And I'm not saying that the Jets aren't doing the right things. I think tonight's a pretty good example of, they made it hard on the San Jose Sharks. This wasn't an easy win for the San Jose Sharks. The way they celebrate that 2-1 goal is clearly a team that is like pressing and pressing and pressing, and they finally get it. Like that. No one is walking away from this game out of the San Jose Sharks dressing room and saying, well, that was an easy one, boys, on to the next one. They had to grind for this. And that's what the Winnipeg Jets do. And that's what they've continued to do this year. Is if you want to play them, just like I said last game against the LA Kings, you have to choose to grind. If you choose not to grind, you're not going to do well in that game. And so, as I said last game, there's a lot of games the Jets simply win because the other team just isn't interested in the grind. But that doesn't explain how a team wins the President's Trophy. That doesn't explain how a team gets to a stage where it wins as consistently as the Winnipeg Jets did. One of the things that I think they did last year that I really have to say I really haven't seen on display this year is I think they took hope away from the opposition last year. It was just such a smothering performance, and it was such a jumping on you offensively when they had the opportunity, and you just didn't get a sniff at all on the penalty kill. And the power play was just absolutely, beating you down. So you can't make a mistake out there. You can't get careless with your stick, because the Jets go on the power play and boom, it's in the back of your net. And even if they do take a penalty against you, you're probably not going to score when you get there. And if you do get a chance, Connor Hellebuck is going to be there to stop you. They're just really hard to score. Although all those elements are still in place. Connor Hellebuck was brilliant tonight, right? Their penalty kill was brilliant on this night. Still really, really tough. The Jets aren't easy to play against, but what I haven't seen from them this year, and you could think back to those Calgary games. Like, I think Calgary thought they had a chance in that game. There's a couple games this year. Philadelphia stands out to me. Maybe you could throw the New York Islanders into that mix there, but there were games where the Jets kind of stole the hope away from the opposition. And when you steal away the hope, then teams get careless. They stop trying, those kind of things. And then you win games because you've kind of crushed the spirit of the other teams. The Jets aren't doing that. They're not even coming close to doing that. Tonight is the kind of night where you're expecting the Jets, if they're, the top team that we're thinking they're going to be, is just going to find a way to kind of crush the hope of the San Jose Sharks. The San Jose Sharks, that never happened. In fact, their hope and their belief in themselves got stronger and stronger as this game went on. Against LA, got stronger and stronger as the game went on. I would say Seattle was another example of that. Even, games that they won, against both of them against the Calgary Flames, I thought their belief got stronger as the game went on. The Jets still win some of those games, but it's not where they were challenging the belief of other teams last year. It's not like that. I haven't seen it like that. And you have to wonder, this team is growing. I'm not saying this is the best version of this team we've seen before. And to be honest, this looks a lot more like what other teams look like. Hey, let's take the beginning of the season and slowly build up to what we can be, compared to what we've seen from the Jets last couple of years, where they just come baked in right out of training camp, driving in fifth gear. And that's where they stay for the vast majority of the year. There's a higher place for this team to go to, but until they get there and show us what they're capable of, I haven't seen that they are capable of being the team they were last year, where they just absolutely crush you from the beginning of the game to the end of the game and steal your hope, and have a lot of teams just tap out sometimes by the first, often by the second period, and say, you know what, if you want it, it's yours. That doesn't exist so far this year. And because I haven't really seen it, I've seen tiny little stretches of it, shifts of it here and there. But ask yourself this: if Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor hadn't started the year as hot as they had, where would this team be right now in the standings? If they didn't have that top line winning them games, the structure and everything that this team relies on, it's there. It's not as solid as it was last year. And it's definitely not tilting the ice the way that it did last year. That's my take on the whole thing, on the Jim Pattison Toyota opening drive, brought to you by the fine folks at Jim Pattison Toyota, who just do an absolutely phenomenal job over there. And I got to say, sorry, just give me 1 second here. There we go. Yeah. Finding the right vehicle can feel like a big decision, but the team at Jim Pattison Toyota on Regent makes it easy. They'll help you find the perfect fit from their wide selection of new and pre-owned Toyotas, all backed by great service and honest advice. So if you're ready for something new, stop by Jim Pattison Toyota on Regent, or start your search online at jptoyotaregent.com. All right. Time to bring in the man with the best music in the business. He may have a little bit of a different take on this, so let's bring him in to see if that's what he's got. Time to bring in Kenny.
Whoa.
Ken, late night out here, and it felt like a late one for the Winnipeg Jets. Not that they started late, but it looked like they got a little bit tired by the end of the whole thing. What were you seeing out there?
Yeah, not their best. Scott O'Neill, very blunt in his post-game assessment on CGOB on the post-game show. Called it a terrible game for the Winnipeg Jets. Mostly good period, I thought, first period for the Jets, but after that, they got sloppy again. Second period has been problematic for them on a lot of nights. And puck management has just not been there. They're, again, they didn't get scored on, but Connor Hellbuck had to be called upon to make a number of big saves, as you mentioned. Not a lot of offensive, challenges or, generation as in terms of that. Not a lot of second chances. Yes, so, Nedeljkovic had to make some saves in the first and the third, but I didn't like the Jets' second period. I mean, they did come out okay in the second, and then all of a sudden they just sort of sputtered out of control for a while, and it's just very odd to see how they're playing right now. 1 goal in 2 games is not Jets hockey, but I think Scott O'Neill's way more concerned about the defensive play than he is what they're creating offensively, which needs to be more. But yeah, they don't look like themselves in the second period at all. Massive wake up call. I mean, I know Adam Lowry was asked about it in the post game about maybe what was behind the shakeup. I mean, Sean, I'm pretty sure you agree with me. Like, this is absolute wake up call for the Winnipeg Jets when the head coach moves each one of the top line players onto a different line. It is not by accident. And again, that's not that he's only pointing the finger at the top line. But when things aren't going well and your head coach moves, especially splits up Scheifele and Kyle Connor, that is meant to snap people to attention. That quite frankly was the Pristine Roofing wake-up call, and the Jets didn't really get it, even though, yeah, like I said, I mean, Niederreiter, I think, gets stopped. I thought the Nedeljkovic had to make the save in the waning seconds. It didn't, might have hit the post too, but they just weren't good enough. And Adam Lowry was also very blunt in his interview on CGOB, and this is what we've talked about, Sean, so much about the Jets. In a year, in days gone by, a 1-goal loss would have been, didn't get the breaks, whatever. But Adam Lowry flat out said the Jets weren't good enough. They need to be better. Feeding into the transition of a young team that's on the rise, a young team that doesn't, they're still learning how to defend. We talked a lot about Utah, Sean, how Utah's kind of like the 17, 18 Jets, learning how to defend, lots of offensive, talent. The Sharks have that same kind of idea going, except Utah's just maybe a little bit ahead on the progression side of things. But again, we won't spend a lot of time talking about the Sharks, but we will spend some time talking about Celebrini in a little bit here. But for me, I don't like the way that the Jets played. I've been saying this for weeks, and again, we're trying. This is not about one person or anything like that, but the Jets have some guys who need to be better. They're not playing at their level, and there are some, again, as you mentioned in the open, were it not for a crazy start for the top line and some tremendous special teams, we'd be talking about something other than 9-5. So, the Jets are 0-2 to start this road trip. This was going to be a trip that I think it would be an overstatement to say this could be a season-defining trip. But after dropping the first 2 games of this trip, it's not getting any easier for the Jets as they move along here. They're going to play the team that leads the Pacific Division. 3 regulation losses only for the Anaheim Ducks. They're also a young team that added some veteran players. One of those players, Chris Kreider, who we talked a lot about, a tough year last year with the Rangers. He's got 9 goals in 9 games. Cutter Gauthier is off to a great start. I mean, this is a team that's fun to watch. The Jets, if they handle the puck the way they did today in terms of puck management, but they're going to run into a lot of the same problems as they ran into today, because the Ducks are fast and fun and up tempo and go. They're like the go Jets of years past. So again, this is not Panic at the Disco territory for the Jets. It's just a reminder that it's a long season and they're not at their level yet. And, that's something where They need to change that, because right now there's more questions than answers from the first 2 games of this road trip. And that's why I love the critical self-assessment, both from Arneal and from Adam Lowry. And now comes the self-correction, right? That's been the other sort of calling card of this Jets team. They don't lose 2 in a row often. Now, what are they going to do to try to make it, prevent it from going to 3 in a row? And then all of a sudden, now you're trying to put the brakes on the Avalanche idea. So, anyways, it'll be an interesting next few days, I think.
I'm ready to hand out the Flame and Comfort Hot Take Award. I'm going to offer it up here to Russ Lowen, who says, have they ever not played this way on the Sunshine Trip? I think this is one of the good hot takes in the idea that I remember very much being on this show 2 years ago, and they went, I think it was a game that they had against Anaheim, or maybe, no, I'm sorry, that was last year. And I kind of ripped into that team, and, like they do when I rip into games where I just think that the effort wasn't there, and, I can't remember if that's the one where they pulled out the victory, or no, it was against San Jose. They barely pulled out a victory last second. They pulled it out of the fire and then went to the next game against Anaheim and didn't do well and ended up losing that game. And everyone's always telling me, oh yeah, this and that, and making excuses. The excuse train gets fired up for things like this. Maybe this is an excuse. I don't know if it is, but it's very factual for me. Like Russ Lowen points out the fact that the Winnipeg Jets, once upon a time going to California was a monster, right? Because you were running into San Jose, who is perennially a dominant regular season team.
Yep.
And the LA Kings were grinding you, and Anaheim was really, really good for years. So you went to California, and it was like, how many teams went into California and went 0 for 3, right? Clearly that changed over the last number of years. Clearly it's on the upswing now, the way those teams are playing. But even before this, the Jets had been playing poor. I don't know if it's, hey, if I'm going to fire up the excuse machine, maybe it's the biorhythms, maybe it's that they have too much fun when they're in California. Maybe it's that bright sunlight down there is, cooking them coming from Winnipeg. Clearly, these are ridiculous excuses, but it doesn't change the fact that Russ Lowen is pointing out something that happens all the time here, that the Winnipeg Jets do not seem to be at their best when they're on the West Coast. So that is your K&R Hot Take, brought to you by Flame and Comfort, Manitoba's premier supplier of fireplaces, wood stoves, inserts, and everything hearth-related. After 50 years heating up your world, Flame and Comfort is at a new location at 1465 St. James Street. If you haven't checked it out, when you do, you will find it is one of the most impressive showrooms here in Western Canada. You don't need your hot takes to keep that warm feeling inside. Visit Flame and Comfort. They will take care of it for you. And Ken, we are moving so fast on this, we forgot that you already, the Jets were given the Pristine Roofing wake-up call by their head coach after that game, which means it's time to give North End Rick the Pristine Roofing wake-up call at 204-981-6289. He's the guy you want at your place for all your roofing, siding, exterior needs. You can also call Pristine Roofing directly at 204-237-7663. Give your home the Pristine Roofing wake-up call. You will be glad that you did. Okay.
We also missed this one here. We missed, we're not dressed like...
We don't need to do that right now. We'll get to that. There's time to get to that.
All right.
I will say this, okay, I wanted to touch on that ending, and
sure.
So the Jets do push, right? And if you remember, Renny had the take that the Jets weren't going to be the comeback team this year that they were in previous years, right? Now, it's a risky take, and I knew it at the time, because what are the Jets really good at? They're opportunistic. If they get an opportunity, they put the puck in the back of the net. They don't need a lot. So for me to say that wasn't going to happen, they've already had, I think, a comeback victory so far this year. And they do push, and clearly they did tonight. But if you go back and watch that game, and every once in a while, I love the people who record games so they can go back and rewind things. Because if you go back and take a look at it, with 2 minutes left in that game, the Winnipeg Jets are pushing and trying to get back to, to even in that game. And I'll say this, what I keep talking about, and what I thought Nikolai Ehlers did that was so good, was it's not just that he gets you a zone entry. He does so in a manner that, I've said this before, it forces the defense into a defensive position. They collapse to the middle of the ice. They give the Jets the outside of the boards, and then the Jets go to work. So I watched this tonight, and I kind of watched the clock on it. With 2 minutes left in the game, the Winnipeg Jets are essentially pulling the goaltender, and it's time for them to go. And they bring the puck down, and they dump it in, and it gets picked up and scooped up, and it gets tossed back out of the zone. Okay, Jets regroup, come back in, toss that puck back in. And now, because it's a dump in and they ring it all the way around the boards, they do a good job sealing and they keep it in the zone, but it's a battle for that puck now. It's on the boards. It's in a less dangerous place. It's a battle for the puck. It's not until the 1 minute mark, that the Jets finally get the puck how they like to have it, with the defense collapsed to the middle of the ice and working the puck around and trying to make those passes across. Then boom, it's in the back of the net. They get one over to Kyle Connor. I think it gets blocked or a save is made. It's a battle for the puck, and boom, it's back down the ice. So from 2 minutes to 1 minute, it's a grind to just try and get the defense into the position you want them in, where you are able to make hay, and all of a sudden it's out of the zone, back out of the zone. By the time they get back in, it's 45 seconds. They do get it set up again, but and they get an opportunity. And like Ken said, I think that one goes off the toe and off the post. Right. So they get close, because this is a really good team that is good at, like pushing and taking care of opportunities. But I think my point is pretty salient here. And the idea that with those 2 minutes left, what we were used to seeing from the Jets last year was 2, sometimes 3 minutes of the Jets getting the puck in the opposition zone and just moving it and moving it and moving it and moving it, and opportunity, and the puck gets back, and move it, and boom, on the net, another opportunity, and they get the puck back and they move it and they move it. And so, yes, the Jets still have that ability to score their way back into games, but I think I'm right so far from what we're seeing from the Jets, that the amount of opportunities that they get are nowhere near as what they were last year. They're not spending as much time running the puck the way they like to run the puck when they're trying to come back into games. And I think it's because of the difficulties jumping into the zone. And if we're being honest, Ken, I think it's made obvious and evident in the amount of times that they try to dump the puck and then retrieve it, rather than hold the puck, get a controlled zone entry, and then set up from there. You're basically saying, we can't get past your blue line, so we're going to dump it behind you, and then we're going to go fight with you for the puck, which is probably going to take 10, 15, 20 seconds off the clock. Sometimes it's longer. Sometimes it's 20 to 30. But I'm starting to see already, Ken, 15 games in, that there's a pattern. The Winnipeg Jets, and think about it kind of in that last game of the year, the Manitoba Miracle game. How much of that last part of the game the Winnipeg Jets spend in St. Louis's zone with the puck, moving it around, complete control, and basically St. Louis collapsed to the middle of the ice, just holding on for dear life. That's not what I saw tonight. I didn't see the San Jose Sharks holding on for dear life. I saw them contesting the puck at every turn. Did the Jets get an opportunity? Yes. Good on them for doing that. A lot of teams don't even get there. But we may be saying right now, and seeing it for the rest of the year, that the days of the Jets taking the last 3 minutes of the game and just bottling the opposition up in their zone and not letting them touch the puck, we may be looking at this, Ken, and those days just may be over.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's evident that other teams they've been a lot more aggressive at the Jets offensive blue line. So at their defensive blue line, they're not getting pushed back the same way. I think that's 100% fair. Whether they were going to do that anyway, I guess we'll never know, because Ehlers isn't there. But yeah, I mean, it's a factor right now. So the Jets are going to have to find different ways. So I think it's actually smart going to the dump and chase in those scenarios. Not all the time, of course, but if a team is going to be aggressive towards you at the offensive blue line, then you need to go to plan B. And, those are the battles you're going to have to win, rather than turn over the puck at the offensive blue line, which feeds into the transition game, then you're going to have to chase some pucks down. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a factor. I mean, I think the Jets still, I mean, I texted you, I think at one point, I mean, they did still have some really important churning shifts. I think maybe that one was earlier in the second period when I sent you the note about the Shifley
You
line.
did, yeah. And then it
but
came
then
and
after
went.
that, it didn't happen. Yeah,
It
it
came
didn't
and
happen
went.
after that. I mean, at one point, the Jets were out shooting the Sharks 18-12. And all of a sudden, you looked up and they were, what is going on here? Suddenly, it was 20-18, and most of the dangerous chances were happening at the Jets' end of the ice in the defensive zone, with Hellebuck, getting forced to, make breakaway shorthanded saves on Barclay Goodrow and Ty Dellandrea and, any number of different players. So, yeah, I mean, hey, the Jets are still definitely in the, they're in the process of trying to find themselves. Their identity is still very much a work in progress. We know their identity will be related to structure and defense, but the Jets became a top 10 offensive team last year, and they want to be one again. We knew it would be challenging with some of the, roster composition things that have happened. And, Cole Perfetti taking a few steps forward in terms of his progression out of the non-contact for those who missed it this morning in San Jose. That doesn't mean he plays next game, but it means that he's still tracking towards playing before the trip is over. There's still 4 games left on this trip. If I had to guess, I would guess it would be in Seattle or in, more likely Seattle. I don't know about Vancouver. We'll have to see, I guess. I don't expect him against the Ducks, but yeah, I mean, once the Jets get Cole Perfetti back, we're going to have a little different look at what the middle six looks like. I mean, I'm super curious. Scott O'Neill wasn't happy with the blended lines, and they didn't really generate much until the end, and that was 6-on-5. So, do you just go back to what was working before? Do you try something different? Is there you want to try? You and I have talked about it. Do you want to try Gabe Velarde with Jonathan Taves and Vlad Nemesnikov? Again, there's lots of options that are coming along. Adam Lowry being back for another game, I think, is important in terms of his return. He's been helpful for the Jets for sure. But right now, they're not as Sean. You talked about it for years. Their superpower is getting to structure faster than most other teams. Right now, I wouldn't say it's kryptonite, but the Jets do not have the same ability to impose their will with that superpower. Whether that's roster composition or whether that's integration of new players, we'll see as we continue to push towards the 20-game mark. But right now, they're not, any of that they had early on. They don't have that right now. That's not to say they can't find it fairly quickly, but they're going to have to find it because right now they're not looking the same way. Again, we've talked about this for years, and it goes back to Paul Maurice's time here. When the Jets know what they're supposed to look like, they're incredibly hard to beat. Right now, there's too many stretches where they don't look like themselves or they're not looking the way they're supposed to look. That means forwards. That means defense. It doesn't mean goaltending. Connor Hellebuck has done his part, and so has Eric Comrie. So to me, the goaltending has been tremendous. But this group needs to elevate. They're not at an elite level right now. We always talk about, we expect them to be a contender, but in terms of the teams that are elite right now, the Jets are not an elite team right now. They have some qualities of an elite team. They're not playing like an elite team right now. And, in order for that narrative to change, they're going to have to up their game. I mean, it's just as simple as that for me.
I want you on the record on this, Ken, because, T. Will says it right here, and we're hearing it from a lot of people. We've discussed it on this show. I've said this, that what I've seen from the Jets so far this year, maybe they're going to get up to speed. But as of right now, what I've seen is a team that is not as fast as last year's team was. We talked about them losing the fastest player on the second line, the fastest player on the third line, the fastest player on the fourth line from last year, and the effect that that's had. But of course, T. Will is saying dumping and chasing isn't a problem if you have a fast team that can be hard on the forecheck like the Jets were last year. But this year, they can't seem to get in there fast. They're just slow. I want you on the record with this. Are the Jets going to be able, do you believe the Jets are going to be able to get back to the team they were last year and look, and maybe they don't even do it until the end of the season. To be honest with you, Ken, if they don't do it until the last 15 games of the season, I really don't think that there's a problem with that, because if they get to it at the right time of the year, it's not a big deal. And I think last year's just a perfect example that, going out and winning the President's Trophy means absolutely nothing. They almost got knocked out, save for the, basically the intervention of the hockey gods. They get knocked out in the first round by the 16th seed in the playoffs last year. So maybe they don't, and like maybe still game 60 we're talking about this and saying, wringing our hands. But maybe with 15 games left in the season, the Jets all of a sudden get up to and then start doing what we've known from them the last couple of years, that grind where they get in on you and the shifts where they're penning you into your zone. You talked about it, a brief glimpse of it from the Scheifele line there, but we were used to seeing it from the Scheifele line and then the Lowry line, and then coming out after that, the Nemesnikov line. And then by the end of it, so too was the fourth line doing it. You were just getting this Jets wall running on you over and over again. I want you on the record now. Do you think that the Jets will get back to that? Do you think they are capable of doing what the team did last year in that vein?
Well, they're never going to be as fast as they were without Ehlers. I mean, Ehlers is one of the fastest players in the league when he's at straight line speed, but I don't foresee speed being an issue for them once the playoffs begin. But they're definitely going to have to adjust their sights. I think they're going to have to start playing faster. And right now they're not playing fast enough. I mean, that's 100% accurate. I think the Jets will identify that as something of need, and it's something that Kevin Cheveldayoff will be looking. I mean, again, it's so interesting, right? We're trying to find a balance. Last year the Jets were fast enough, but not stiff enough. So we've talked about this over the years. Sometimes you go too far one way, and maybe you overcompensate. So the Jets got slower. There's no argument there. We've mentioned the players that have left and the players that have come in. I just don't think the Jets are playing fast enough. I think they've got guys that are smart enough to play fast. But right now, my issue is more with structure, and that's defensive structure. But for me, I do think they are going to need to upgrade their person or change some of the personnel in order to get back to it not being an issue. I don't see it being an issue at the end of the year, but if it stays at this level, it will continue to be an issue. I think that's also fair to say.
I'm going to try and plant the flag in the ground a little bit stronger. I'll say this.
And that's okay.
Without going and addressing it at the trade deadline, I don't think the Jets can. The Jets this year are going now. Structure still matters. The Winnipeg Jets survived this game because they did a unbelievable job of shutting down shooting lanes. Right now, there were opportunities, and I get the breakdown, but to be honest, I actually think it's kind of, it just shows the high standard that Scott Arniel has for the Winnipeg Jets, that he would look at that game that they won 2-1. And I mean, Hellebuck was great in that game, but so was Nedeljkovic, right? It was two good goaltenders in that game. And sometimes this is just what the league looks like, right? The league just looks like, other teams get opportunities and then boom, the goalie steps up and it ends up being a low scoring game. But another reason this is a low scoring game, the amount of blocked shots by the Winnipeg Jets, the amount of times that the San Jose Sharks were trying to find different ways to open up a shot. Let's try the middle of the ice here. Let's kick it to the guy in the middle of the ice and then kick it back up to the defenseman and then over to the wing. And you could see by the end of it, there's one time that Macklin Celebrini, who's the highest scoring player in the league right now, but still a young player, gets his youth exposed because there's one point where there's just no chance he's getting the shot through, and he just takes it because he's just so frustrated by this point that they can't get a shooting lane. So it's I don't want to call it rich, but it's a sign from Scott Arniel that his expectations of this team are crazy high, that he thinks that the problem on this night was this breakdown of defensive hockey. Right now, maybe from the mindset that the Jets create good offense off of good defense, the kind of defense where you're stealing the puck away from the opposition, then no doubt there was not a lot of that. The Jets didn't look like they were fast enough to get in front of the play and turn pucks over. Lowry did it once on the penalty kill to get that breakaway. I think Kepke came close on one.
Yeah,
There was a couple.
really good
There's a
pass by
couple
Velarde.
opportunities, but that is a lot of what the Jets do. So maybe if from that perspective, if he's saying like good defense to me means we're just taking the puck off these guys and going down the other way. The Jets were hard to get shots on tonight. And when they did get in there, and there were some in tight ones, and I'm not saying there weren't good opportunities. There were. But for the most part, I would suggest if I were San Jose's coach, I'd be walking away from that game and saying, you know what, guys, I know that was frustrating. And I'm so proud of you, this young team, for sticking with it to the point that we end up grinding out a 2-1 victory in this, because that's what they had to do. They had to grind out a victory. This defensive effort by the Jets tonight that Scott Arniel was completely upset with, and their captain is saying not good enough, and yeah, it wasn't good enough on this night, is the kind of defensive effort that I'd guess a quarter, maybe a third of the league would have been more than happy. I can tell you this, Ken. I watched the Montreal Canadiens game against the Philadelphia Flyers the other night, and the Montreal Canadiens would have been ecstatic to have the kind of defensive output that the Winnipeg Jets had on this night. So it's interesting. Expectations are, people usually rise to those expectations when you set those expectations out. But I know I went on a little bit of a preamble there, or a post-amble. I don't know, whichever. But
we'll decide in a few minutes.
I don't think the Jets have the personnel to be that speed, cram it down your throat, bottle you in your own end team that they were last year. I think there's flashes of it. Like you said, you texted me. We saw that tonight. They're more than capable of doing that and being that team here and there. There's no ability, I think, for this team from what I've seen so far, and maybe there's a surprise left in them. I don't think they have the personnel to be that team they were last year, this year, without going and making changes at the trade deadline to try and speed themselves up.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, 28 blocked shots for the Jets today compared to 11 for the Sharks, 20 hits for the Jets, 33 shots on net. Let's see here, 12, that's 45, 54 shot attempts. So, on a lot of nights there would be things that you would be pulling positives from, but again, I think that just too many odd man rushes. Breakaway goal for Celebrini, which was spectacular, and I'll come back to that very shortly. Barclay Goodrow getting a shorthanded breakaway that Hellebuck has to close the pads. That's just not crisp and Jets kind of hockey. So. I thought Vladislav Nemestikov in game 800 was excellent. 5 shots, 3 hits. A couple grade A's for him. But again, they just weren't looking as much like themselves. Too many breakdowns, and we can say uncharacteristic as much as we want. Because we were used to last year's Christmas, but it's been more characteristic of them in the early going, and it's something they got to clean up. So, it's also too, we got to remember too, it's small sample size still for the most part. But yeah, trends are starting to develop, and some of those trends the Jets don't like, and they're going to have to do something about them.
You'd said not looking like themselves. This is a good example of you and I here tonight, Ken.
Segue.
Because there was someone who pointed out earlier on. I'll bring it up here. But
T Will after you.
Where was
Skate
that?
Park.
T Will? T Will going
Park.
after me? There you go.
Yeah.
Of course, it's T Will. Being T Will out there, being T Will. I can't find it. He was ripping into us, looking like we are not looking like ourselves, because we are not looking like the Vittorio men that we are when we're at our best. Not at our best today. The only way we get to our best, though, of course, is if we head on down to Corridon Avenue and go see Frankie and the boys. That's what you need to do as well to get to your best. Head on down to Vittorio Rossi. Walk in, loudly proclaim Kenny and Renny sent you. Ask for Frankie and the boys, and they will do you upright. They will get you to your best. Absolutely no doubt about that. Do you want to give Sweet Lou a shout out while we're at it?
You bet. For folks who have realty needs you'd like to have met, contact Lou Ferlin at Royal LePage Dynamic Realty, 204-791-9971, or at the office, 204-989-5000. His email is lou@loufurlan.ca. That's LOU@LOUFURLAN.ca. Lou Furlan, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of the community, including this podcast.
All right, Tree G says something interesting here where he says, let's take a deep breath. We have two very important players who will return soon, and hopefully the Jets will find their consistent and defensive game. I've been I'm ready to switch something. I'm ready to switch a take of mine. I've talked about Dylan Sandberg as being the most important player on this team when it came to, or sorry, the toughest injury is how I put it. He was the toughest injury for them to survive because of his defensive game. And I still think he's a great defensive player. But I don't really feel like that's what's been missing from the Jets so far. So if of the two players coming back, I yes, could they be a better defensive team? Yeah. They also, I mean, their last game, they lost, basically 1-0. Tonight, they lose 2-1. Like, that's not the problem. The problem with this team is not its ability to keep its puck out of the net, right? Is Sandberg going to make it easier? You disagree. I love that you disagree because I want to go there with this, but I'm planting another flag in the ground here. Dylan Sandberg coming back, I think is, the best that he could do is Dylan Sandberg is not just good at shutting things down. He's good at moving the puck out of his zone. So how I talked about the ice tilting in the Winnipeg Jets, not being able to tilt the ice as much as they have in the past, maybe he helps with that because the Jets spend less time in their zone, more time getting it out. And because he's getting those clean zone exits and moving the puck well, the Jets hit the, the neutral zone with speed. And that means they start getting into the offensive zone with better control, all those kind of things. And then maybe they get that churn going. So maybe that's there. But I'll be honest, I think his biggest impact is locking the team down airtight defensively. I don't think that's the Jets' problem. I think the Jets have really found a way that even when they don't have their defensive game, they're so good at man-to-man shutting down shooting lanes that it mitigates the lack of structure that we've seen. And I don't want to call it lack of structure, the inability to have the airtight structure that we saw from them last year. I do think of the two players, Cole Perfetti will be the more important one because the Jets are going to need to find some kind of scoring offense here because I think what we are seeing, I said at the beginning of the show, I'll say it again, the Jets had a ridiculous start to the season from their top line, and it earned them points. It won them games over and over again. That line's gone a little bit dormant now, and we're starting to see they're on the wrong end of some of these games right now where maybe they would have won this game 3-1 if Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor were operating at the pace they were. I think that Cole Perfetti and his ability to find scoring on that second line, I think he's the central figure, the nucleus now for that line, no matter who he plays with, built on the confidence that he made last year. I think he's the more important of those two players coming back into the lineup, Ken.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that Perfetti's loss has been felt on the offensive side, and not for secondary scoring, Sean, for primary scoring. You can't just have secondary scoring. You can't just have one line that is your primary scoring unit. So, again, Cole's going to have to get going offensively, agreed. The reason why I disagree, Sean, this was another game where, again, this is not gospel, natural stat trick. High dangers today were 13-7 Sharks. And just as one example, I mean, we're talking about Dylan Sandberg and his importance. I mean, this is not pointing a finger at Neil Pionk, but the facts are that when Neil was on the ice today, the scoring chances were 6 for the Jets, 15 for the Sharks, and the high dangers were 2 for the Jets and 8 for the Sharks. So, again, this is not about one player, but Neil Pionk plays his best hockey with Dylan Sandberg. So not only are the Jets missing Sandberg, they aren't getting the best version of Neil Pionk. That's not to say that Neil Pionk is reliant on Sandberg, but the numbers over the last year and change suggest that he's a much better version of himself, even though Logan Stanley has done a nice job this year. No one's disputing that. Neil Pionk has not been at the level we're used to seeing, even to the point where Scott O'Neill had him with Josh Morrissey a ton today when the blender came out. So Josh has been the Jets' best defenseman. DeMello's been pretty good. So they were willing to split up the top pair to try to get a little bit more out of Neil Pionk. I think unfortunately for Pionk, he was on the ice for the game winner by Will Smith. But again, I not about one person; it's about the collective. But for me, Dylan Sandberg will certainly help matters. Again, he's not going to just come in and be great right away. I mean, he's going to need some time to get himself back up to speed as well. And again, he wants to take another step forward in his progression. This isn't just about being as good as he was last year. He's one year as a top 4 player. Just got a big ticket in the offseason. He's going to want to play well as soon as he gets back. Again, for me, Perfetti is going to be a massive addition for the Jets. Vladislav Nemeskov's done a great job. 6 goals out of the gate. He's meshed really well with Taves. I think that, we've been debating about what's going to, where people are going to fit. I think Perfetti is going to go on that line, and Iafallo will go down either to the 3rd or the 4th line. And that'll be Perfetti with Nemesnikov and Taves, because Nemesnikov and Taves had another couple setups today. The one from behind the net by Taves to Nemesnikov was an absolute grade A beauty. But I mean, this is like last year. We tried to determine who went the furthest, right? I mean, Perfetti was kind of becoming more of a driver rather than a nice piece of the second line, whereas Sandberg was not only playing in the top 4, but he was kind of anchoring that second pairing. So, anyways, I think that it's going to be interesting, but I still think, because the Jets have more depth up front, I think that they will, again, and this is splitting hairs here, but I think that the loss of Sandberg is being felt more than the loss of Perfetti. But that's not to say the loss of Perfetti hasn't been big. It's massive, especially when a team has gone and scored once in the last 2 games. But again, we got to kind of zone out a little bit. The Jets have been shut out twice in the first 14 games. That's a little bit odd. 1 goal in 2 games is also odd. But they're not getting enough second and third chances. Now, today there were a couple glorious chances. Niederreiter is going to have trouble sleeping after the one that he missed around the net that was set up by Nemesnikov. But again, Jets need to generate more. So yes, I mean, Perfetti obviously will help in that front, but Sandberg also, along with his solid defending last year, he had a career high for points also. So, and as you mentioned, his ability to get zone exits is something the Jets have been not doing a good enough job on as well of late.
I mean, you know what I kind of love doing? I kind of love being right on takes like I was with Sandberg last year, talking about his importance. But then when you can go against your own take and maybe jump on just in time to see the, like jump on the next train as it starts moving. I mean, that's next level analysis, Ken, because what do we need? You just talked about it. They need more scoring. Cole Perfetti can help with scoring. You know who else can help with scoring is Cambrian Credit Union. Can help you score a great rate with Cambrian Credit Union. Getting a mortgage doesn't have to throw you off your game while you focus on home sweet home. Our friends at Team Cambrian Credit Union take care of the mortgage part with their low rates. Whether you're looking for a new home, renewing, or making the switch, Cambrian is your mortgage MVP. They can help make the next season of your mortgage path easier and help save you money. Now, that's what we call a win. Head to cambrian.mb.ca rates for more. Ken, I wanted to bring this question into your T-Will. I bust his balls every chance I can get, but I will say this. I find this a fascinating look at this. He says, so here's where we see what kind of coach Arnie is. Is he able to adapt the game plan to his personnel, or is he going to try to insist they stick to the style he prefers? Now, this is basically based on the acceptance of the idea that the Jets are a slower team this year and cannot. I asked you the question earlier on, can the Jets get back to that grind? Can they get up to that? This is built on the idea that they cannot here. But I'm still fascinated by it because I can tell you this. Winnipeg Jets, I had a conversation with Paul Maurice when he was here, when he had the defensive changeover, right? When 2018, 2019, the Jets tried to run it back 2019, thinking that things were going to go their way. It didn't turn out that way. And then their defense changed and they tried to continue playing the same style. And they just didn't have the personnel to do it, right? And I wonder how many coaches take a look at a team and say, it's changed. we need to change. I would suggest, Ken, it almost never happens. Now, I had a very prominent NHL coach say to me that they prepare for other teams' coaches, and that guess what? You want to see when coaches get fired? It's because of exactly this. The personnel on the team changes and stops fitting the style of the coach. This guy told me, I've been preparing to play this coach, ex-coach in the NHL for 8 years now. And he's been with this team and this team and this team. And every team he goes to, they play that coach's style. Coaches have styles, and they get hired for teams based on the idea that those teams fit the style of the coach and that coach can get the most out of them. Now, that's my take on. Sorry, that's not my take, but it's my kind of where I fall, having had that conversation and seeing that. You want a perfect example of it. Paul Maurice going to Florida and basically having them play hockey like the 2018 Winnipeg Jets. Pressure. What was it they always talked about, the Winnipeg Jets back in 2018? I was told by other coaches, nobody pressures the puck further up ice than the Winnipeg Jets. They're not trying to stop you in the neutral zone. Forget the neutral zone trap. They don't want to give you your own blue line. And that's exactly how the Florida Panthers played. Paul Maurice left the Winnipeg Jets and found a team that played the style of game he likes to play even better than the Winnipeg Jets, and it worked. I would also add in this part of it, Ken, before you take over. The Winnipeg Jets have put a lot of work into trying to craft a very specific identity over the years. Yep. And they went and they grabbed players for that to try and achieve something, right? Niederreiter is a perfect example of that. Nemesnikov is a perfect example of that. Now, there's a lot of people out there. I'm hearing a lot of people, upset about Shen, upset about Stanley, the new guys that they've picked in, the guys that they let go. Clearly, people are going to be upset about Nikolai Ehlers being allowed to go or choosing to go, I think is the better way to phrase that. But I don't think the Winnipeg Jets spent all of these years trying to build an identity just to get to a stage where they say, oh, it looks like our identity slipped a little bit. Well, let's follow that to a new identity. I don't think that's how it works. I think it's more along the lines of what Ken says, that if they don't feel like they're achieving the identity they've set out to achieve, that they'll try and address it as the season goes on or at the trade deadline and get back to the very well-crafted and very specific identity they've been trying to hit for years.
Yeah, you bet. And Sean, one other thing for me that is standing out, and I mean, we've talked about everything else, offense, not being able to push back the defense the same way and not having the same churn and handoff shifts, and structurally they're not as sound in the defensive zone. I think the biggest difference with the Jets right now is their back pressure or lack thereof. Last year they were dog on a bone on the back pressure side of things, and there's some of it, but not nearly enough of it, or the same, not anywhere near what they were last year. And that is probably related to speed, Sean. I agree with you, but that's something that I think they need to get back to because it's causing a lot more, them to defend more. Right, the reason that they were so successful last year was their ability to hound the puck in all three zones. They haven't been able to do that as often in the neutral zone for me this year. So that's something that we're going to be monitoring as well. And again, we're talking about speed. I mean, Morgan Barron too is one of the Jets' better skaters, and he's been missed in this stretch of games here since he left the lineup.
They've definitely looked slower without Morgan Barron. But you're right, the Winnipeg Jets are typically all over the ice, just like this headband is going to be all over my head in about 5 seconds here. So you know what that means. Time to make this a Sean's Headband version of the Kenny and Renny Show. Let's hit it. This headband all around my head, just like Myers Drugs is all around the city for any of your needs, pharmacy needs, any of your health food needs, supplement needs. They deliver all across the city. If you're heading down there, you don't need to head down there. You can just call and they can come to you. But we suggest if you can, or if you're in the neighborhood, stop by, say hi to Glenn and Jonah for us while you're down there. Tell them Kenny and Renny sent you. You will be appreciative of the home. Hey, Ken, some of the people we went and met there, they'd been there for like, what, 20, 30 years. I love a good mom and pop shop where you've got those people who have been there since like you were, in high school popping in there. I love that kind of stuff when I see that happen. You'll love it too. Head on down there, folks. Okay, Ken. Johnson Group got you covered play of the game. What do you got?
Yeah, I thought I had sent you one, but I mean, this is going to be more of a blanket Connor Hellebuck game. I mean, this wasn't a 52 save game like we saw back in the Shark Tank, whatever it was, 5-6 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Jets were struggling defensively and trying to find themselves. We were talking about identity now, but for me, Connor Hellebuck had his teammates covered in a game where things kind of went south on them, and there were a ton of grade A scoring chances against Hellebuck, kept them right in there till the very end. And it took just a strange goal where the puck kind of squirted behind him and Will Smith kind of found his way to the front of the net and got the job done to find the GWG there with, late in the latter stages of the third. But Hellebuck he was easily the best Jet in this game. And that's why I'm giving him we've got you covered in this one.
Hellebuck was really good, and yet at the same time, I'm not sure I can even give him the Renny award on the night because Nedeljkovic was so good. Fair. He made, we're gonna get to it, but I'm tipping the cap by saying I think that he earns the keg save of the game on this night. And while Hellebuck was absolutely brilliant, I think for me, what it was I touched on it before. It's just the Jets shutting down shooting lanes the way that they did. I just think they did such a good job of that they basically created a scenario by which the San Jose Sharks had to grind and stick with it. The San Jose Sharks belief in themselves was tested on this night and they stuck with it. And that, I mean, to be honest with you, if you're a head coach of the Winnipeg Jets, I know you can always demand more. You can demand more than what you got out of your team. But at the same time, I have to say that what should you be doing to a young team? You should be challenging their belief because typically they're going to crack. Did not happen in this game. Fine. That's how it goes. But I thought that the Winnipeg Jets had the fact that they didn't have a lot of jump. They looked like the second fastest team out on the ice there that night. It created a lot of zone time and a lot of opportunities for San Jose to move the puck. But what I saw was them just basically moving the puck into a new shooting lane. And that shooting lane's closed. And then let's move it over here to try and find another shooting lane. And that one's closed. The Jets gave themselves just like Connor Hellebuck gave them an opportunity to win this game tonight. So too did their stellar shutting down of shooting lanes, which I honestly think they're one of the best teams in the NHL at. And it's one of the reasons they have success. And one of the reasons that was a game that was as close as it was. Anyways, that's my Johnson Group got you covered play of the game. That's the Kenny and Renny OGs. And hey, do you run a small business in Canada? Look to Canada's #1 employee benefits plan, Chambers Plan, to give you a competitive edge. Chambers Plan is the simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. Visit chamberplan.ca to learn more. And that brings us to our keg save of the game, which I've tipped my cap on. And what do you got?
We're in agreement here. I mean, Hellebuck made some beauties, but going to the replay, I mean, Nino Niederreiter had the majority of the net open until he didn't because of the way that Alex Nedeljkovic kicked out his left skate to the point where he prevented Nino Niederreiter from shooting the puck into what was an empty net, essentially. So his ability to get his foot out was an unbelievable save. Again, it's one of those that you have to look really closely at. In real time, you're like, how did that stay out? And then you saw the replay and you're like, holy smokes. He pushed himself over and basically put his skate in a position where Niederreiter couldn't even have moved it left or right to get around him. And I mean, he basically kicked the puck before Niederreiter could put it in the empty net. So just an exceptional save by Nedeljkovic.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. That's our hashtag the keg save of the game. Doesn't matter what we think, though, matters what you think. Share with us your hashtag the keg save of the game. You are automatically entered to win a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg, each location finer than the last. And that brings us to our winner from our last show, and that would be Wesley Fallis 5160. Wesley, you know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name. Send me your email. I will have the fine folks at the keg send you a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg, each location finer than the last. Ken, it's a late one. I think you got a flight. Anything to say before you go?
Yeah, fun game still. And Backlund Celebrini, just absolutely tremendous in this game. I'm sure we're going to be talking about him more over the years. And man, I've been listening to all the debates, and Celebrini's garnering a lot of attention for Team Canada. And we saw it with our own eyes, not in person, but on the tube today. But
Yeah.
man, I know you were talking about it the other day with Huss. I think it's hard to imagine Team Canada not finding a place for him on the roster. And I used to think it was as the 14th man. As of today, I don't see a way where he's not in the starting 12. Again, there's a lot that can happen in 7 weeks, but as of today, he would be in my starting 12.
He's great everywhere. He can't do what Scheifele does yet, where
Right.
with that puck protection, like that. That's what makes Scheifele special, is that he can go in there and he can just stand there. He can stand there, and you can't get the puck off him on the boards. But it's I've seen enough. And here's the interesting thing: we saw him here tonight. We know what makes him great. Right now, he's first in the NHL in scoring. Second behind him now is Connor Bedard. Right? We saw Connor Bedard come in the other night. Now, Connor Bedard is finding a way to score. I think he's going to be a great player in the league for a really long time. I think he's going to get there to be the kind of guy that goes on Team Canada. He'll be a player there. But there's enough of his game, too, where I'll see a turnover here or there and just not the right reaction to it, or he'll try a risky play that just doesn't. You don't see that in Celebrini's game. Like, Celebrini's game is kind of airtight. So he's a guy that I don't see you keeping off of Team Canada. Now, maybe Connor Bedard is just going to take off and improve his game more and more and more and kind of get there. But it sure is interesting how not too long ago, it looked like the obvious choice of the players who didn't make Team Canada last time around. The first in line looked like it was going to be Mark Scheifele. I don't think there's any doubt, especially because of his youth, that right now at this moment in time, and anything could change within next week, and probably if you're the Team Canada brass, it's not changing like this. You've probably got a pretty good idea, but it to your point, it would be hard to keep Celebrini off this team. He scores too much. He's
tenacious.
Good. He's tenacious. He's dog on the bone. He if he goes to that tournament and doesn't score a single goal or get a single point, he will still be a good player for you in that tournament. And add to that the idea that he leads the NHL in scoring right now. Pretty hard to keep him off, especially if you're seeing best on best tournaments going forward. You want that kid to get in, get his opportunity, so that the next time it happens, whenever it happens, if it is, if it's the Olympics, then you're going to have a 23-year-old who already has Olympic experience and has grown from what he is right now, which is absolutely crazy. So yeah, I think I'm definitely bullish on saying he's on that team. I don't have any doubt about it. I think Mark Scheifele needs to wake up, because he can't give any excuses now. I know he hasn't fallen too far, but you can't have too many of these games where you really don't show that much, especially when you're head-to-head against guys who you think you could be getting cut over. Mark Scheifele needs to get back up, wake back up, and get back to doing what he was doing at the beginning of the season to make sure he gets back in that Team Canada. Should be most definitely conversation. Anyways, that's it.
Lastly, sorry, yeah, you bet. I'm going to be heading to Toronto, for those folks who don't know, for our colleague and friend Jennifer Botterill's induction. I'll be covering that for the Free Press here on the weekend. I know Jen and a bunch of friends had a great evening today in Toronto. To sort of the pre-celebration was ongoing. It had some friends who flew in from Winnipeg and some people from all around the hockey world celebrating what will be a excellent Monday for her. And it could be a bonus in there. They just, stroke of luck, the Carolina Hurricanes are playing the Leafs on Sunday night. So I'm expecting to speak with Nikolai Ehlers after the game on Sunday to ask how his transition has been going.
Mr. Value Added, Ken Weeb.
There you go.
Working for you out there.
And then, buddy, then, buddy, I'll be getting the 10 p.m. Eastern time start for that Ducks game.
There you go. Look at that. He never stops. After you left, I was trying to tell the KNR audience that in the pyramid of importance, Rennie's right here, and then the audience is right here, because that's where I put them, and then you're way up here, right? But you're clearly proving me wrong, which I think the people knew that at the time. I tried to sway them. I tried to turn them against you as soon as you left. Like it was like we were at a party, and I was like, I had my arm around your shoulder, and then you left, and I was like, that guy over there. Can you believe that guy? We shouldn't invite him back, right? They weren't falling for it. I tried. It didn't work. Anyways, we tried tonight. We hope that we landed for you on this night. We do appreciate people showing up. The amount of people who do this to 1:16 in the morning with us is crazy. We appreciate you for that. We hope you appreciate right back the conversations happening in this space. And if you do, we hope that you appreciate our sponsors who fight to keep the conversation going in this space. And for us, that's Jim Pattison Toyota on Regent, Pristine Roofing, Vittorio Rossi, Cambrian Credit Union, Sweet Lou Furlan, Flame and Comfort, Myers Drugs, The Keg, and of course, the Kenny and Renny OGs at the Johnson Group. Thank you to them. Thank you to all of you. Let's reconvene and do this after Ken has grounded out on Sunday, and we'll just casually stroll in the door and do this after the Winnipeg Jets play the upstart Anaheim Ducks. Going to be a good one. Talk to you then. Bye-bye, folks.